this is going to be our review of Peripheral Episode 1.
Yeah.
Which obviously created by the Westworld creators. So Ben, do you want to talk us through what's gone on?
Lay back. Close your eyes. Count back from 10.
Peripheral, yeah, it's starring Chloe Grace Moretz.
That's her name.
Yeah,
Kick-Ass.
we knew her from Kick-Ass. The Kick-Ass girl. She was Kick-Ass in this, I can tell you that right now. But yeah, so it starts off in some kind of futuristic London. I think it was set in 2099.
Right, yeah.
And Alita and Wilf, I believe the two people are.
Yeah, like one's like an older dude and one's like a little girl. Isn't it?
It's very strange.
It's a bit weird, but they're talking about it. They're on about saving the world, and you're like, what's going on here? And you've got nothing going on. Just straight up talking about it. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they just mention something, and then boom, we're cut, and then we're back to 2032. So a little bit further in the future.
But we're introduced to two of the main characters, Flynn and Burton, who are brother and sister. And they apparently, I think they're a bit low on cash, and they do this thing where they almost play like a VR simulation of gaming.
Yeah, I imagine
like Ready Player One. I
imagine to me it's more like people power level you. That's the way it seemed to me. Like you get power leveled on a game, someone comes along and helps you out. That's basically what it felt like to me. They're basically her brother Burton's power leveling people.
Yeah.
To get some money for the family.
But it's like in this ultra realistic game setting essentially. And obviously, as much as Burton is a good player, obviously her sister
is much better.
He's the much sicker player and tends to take over his game.
Yeah, so obviously in this scene, he's having a go and she walks in and she's like, I need some more money for the drugs. There's drugs for a mom.
For one pill, then?
For one pill, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, one pill.
But she basically says to her brother, I need some more money. He's like, okay, I'll get you some money. Can you just sort this job out for me? Obviously, I'll pay for the pill. And she goes on and within 5 seconds, she's like set a lawnmower on fire, pushed it out.
Yeah, that's
distracted people, shot someone in the head. Oh my god, she's
threw a knife through someone's head
clearly,
as well, yeah.
She's clearly good at this. The one thing I didn't like the takeaway from it, they mentioned it at some point. He's like, oh, why don't you do this? And she's like, oh, it's because I'm a girl. They don't let girls game. And it's like, it's 2032, mate. It's another like 10 years from now. It felt a bit. That felt a bit.
But to me though, it showed that they might not let girls game, but clearly girls are better gamers than most guys.
Better than a brother at least.
Well, yeah, in this instance, she was a fantastic gamer. But anyway, her brother, he talks about getting this new device that he's got a beta test for this unknown company at the time. And obviously, his sister takes the shotgun ride and it takes the...
Yeah, he's like, oh, I got
steering wheel on this.
He's like, go on with the crack, come on. Yeah. He's like, they only want me because we got to a certain level. And it actually turns out she got to the level 4 him.
Yeah, that's right.
So obviously she's the better gamer in this scenario. So she jumps in. And obviously, it can only be described as almost Sword Art Online. She puts it on, she wakes up and she's in
a bike and she's straight onto a motorbike.
Yeah, straight onto a bike. She's like, oh, what's going on here? She's clearly in like a brother's body because obviously they've stolen it after a brother. And it's crazy.
Yeah,
it feels very Matrix-y, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, because the brother's almost the avatar that she's playing as, but with this headset on, it's like a next step up from gaming, so she can feel the pain, she can feel the touch, the emotion.
Yeah, it's almost like a dream at this point where you can feel everything. And obviously, the first task she's been told, there's a voice in her head saying, okay, you need to go and do this, and do this. And the first thing she needs to go and do is kidnap this random woman that we know literally nothing about.
Which I liked because they were in that scene where they're in a car and he's basically got the woman and said, right, or she's got the woman because she's controlling him. It gets confusing, but stay with us. So she gets the girl in the car and then this person in the head, a narrator, he basically says, right, now you need to knock her out with this gas, but watch out for the driver who's this AI robot. And within seconds, this robot gets defensive, starts trying to stab him and stuff, and it was mental.
There's this really cool car fight scene where they're trying to stop knives attacking each other. And if you get a chance, watch it. I'll put a little clip up here as we're talking along. Bro, it's fantastic. The choreography of the action was brilliant.
Yeah, it was top notch.
And then all of a sudden that ends, and she finally meets the voice in the head. It's a real person.
Yeah.
Well, I say real. It's an in-game person. And then all of a sudden, it just cuts off. She's done. She's like, okay, that's the end for today now. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
She cuts her off back in the real world. And this is where it gets a bit weird now. There's like it's almost this setting between two worlds, isn't it? Because she's obviously gone to get the drugs now that she needs for her mom. And there's these, classic, what I'm going to call classic 90s goons. Like, oh, I want to buy the drugs. Yeah. It's like, oh, he's like...
mullet in tail and everything.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, it's 1,000 for the drugs, but you're going to have to sweeten the deal, i.e., give him a blowjob, which I think is a bit shady, but
But then this guy who only has one arm, like he's lost, obviously through the armed forces and stuff, he's lost both legs and one arm, and he comes over in this futuristic looking wheelchair, connects to almost like this Batman style car,
he does, doesn't he?
And then drives up and he throws a bottle. I don't know how many meters.
Oh, it's quite far,
across,
yeah.
But straight in, nice trick shot, and then threatens them. And he's like, the worst thing that could happen to me right now is I only killed 2 of you. Yeah, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, he's whipped his dick out and he's like, come on, go.
But then because he does that, obviously the goons are scared. They run off back to the bar where they meet their boss.
Oh, man.
Isn't happy about that
He's not. And there's this scene where he's like, when you guys look weak, I look weak. Right, one of you's getting punished. And he gives the guy some whiskey. He's like, drink that whiskey because you're going to need the courage for the next thing.
Need you to be calm for the next thing.
And as he's drinking, he slams his head down on the bar, man. Like, it just shatters in his mouth. And it's like,
wow,
whoa.
That scene was mental. But everyone in the bar just looked and didn't do anything. It's like they know he's the guy not to mess with.
Yeah, it was just a bit weird, this cut between, obviously, the harsh reality of one world and the other. And then we go back into the game, and there's a mention, and the voice in the head is talking to me. He goes, would you take it seriously if I told you the world was going to end in 10 years? She's like, don't be silly. She's thinking it's a game. And I think as the program's going on, you're starting to realise more and more this might not be a game. This might be some kind of future.
Like I was thinking that. I was thinking, is it the future and these people are going back into the past to get... Because if someone said to you now, go out and kill someone, you'd be like, oh, actually, I don't really want it. But if you think it's a game, you instantly do it. So that's what I'm saying. Are they using people from the past in the future to do their dirty work and things?
That's what it starts to feel like. And obviously, she wakes up then when she's back in the game, and she's strapped to a table, paralysed. And this scene is horrible. She's basically being told, right, if you want to stay and get paid, you need to fight the pain. As they remove one of her eyeballs.
Literally, you see the eye open and take
pulled out,
and then they put in
another eye, and it's the eye from the girl. It's the eye from the woman that the first kidnapped, and the scene's crazy. And obviously, she passes the test, and she stays on the pain, and then she wakes up, and they're infiltrating this building, and they get to what I can only describe as the Destiny Pyramid. This random pyramid in the middle of a room, right. And she's like, look at it. She's like, this will relieve your destiny. And you're like, what's going on? This is a funny game. And right as she's about to look into it, a guy rocks up, doesn't he? Yeah. With guns, and you're like, okay, let's get some. And this fight scene that happens in this hallway is so Matrix-like.
He has some beautiful kind of sound cannon or something that shoots something and almost punches your internal organs instead, and they feel the pain of this. They're thrown about. And
then there's this first scene where she gets a handcuffed to the floor, and she pulls the hand out of the handcuff, and it's a robot hand, and you're like, oh my god, maybe this is a future thing where they're taking over these robots in the future. It's like, is everyone here robots? Is there not? And right as the scenes get going, she gets her head blasted off of this cannon, and she wakes up, and she's like, oh my god, I'm not going back into that again. And then she's back at work, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she works at a 3D printer shop. So obviously all the screens start flashing and going off, and it's like, you need to get back to the game,
I was going to say, she's being contacted by Wilf,
which is the guy at the start, and you're like, oh, okay, so he does tie back, and it's like, but if that's a game, how is he contacted outwards? And you're like, oh, what's going on here? And he tells her, you've got a 9 million bounty on your head, you need to get home and get back in the game. That's, I can't help you.
So he obviously goes back to, or she goes back to her brother and says, this is what's going on. Brother doesn't believe her, but then, because he's with all of his army friends and stuff, they pull out these drones controlled by their arm. And
and they look at it. And
they fly over and they see these kind of like SAS type guys, don't they?
And then it just cuts and it ends there, and it's like, whoa, what a first episode. And obviously I can't wait to the next one.
Yeah.
But what's your first opinions on this, Ben?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's very, Westworld type thing. I think it sets some good storylines up. There's still... we've been introduced to some good characters, but we don't quite know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what's reality and what's not at the moment as well.
We just have no idea what's going on. And there's these white little sets that pop up throughout the episode, and it's like a town, isn't it, with people on it, and it's such a Westworld-esque scene, this white thing, and it's like, I just can't wait to see what's happening next. I think it's really good. The fight scenes are crisp and fast, and it's good. I feel like, I can't wait for episode 2.
Definitely a sci-fi season. Yeah.
Sci-fi
season to watch.
Definitely.